Radar operators are tracking something they can't explain. It's moving faster than any aircraft on record, but there's no heat signature behind it, no sonic boom, nothing on infrared. The object isn't leaving a trail because it probably isn't burning anything. What if the propulsion system doesn't use fuel at all? That's not a rhetorical question. DARPA has been funding research into plasma-based propulsion for years, quietly through program offices that don't make press releases. And if the patents filed by major defense contractors describe what they appear to describe, air combat doesn't just improve, it becomes an entirely different problem. Every jet engine flying today is built around the same basic trade-off. You burn fuel, you generate thrust, and the combustion process produces an enormous amount of heat. That heat is the problem. Modern infrared sensors can detect a fighter's exhaust plume from over 100 miles away, and that detection window is what gets aircraft killed. Engineers have spent decades trying to manage this. Cooler burning fuels, shielded exhaust nozzles, angled nozzles that deflect heat downward. But they're all working around the same fundamental physics. Combustion produces heat, and heat radiates. So the real question isn't how to hide the signature better, it's whether you can build propulsion that doesn't produce one in the first place. That's where plasma comes in, and it's worth understanding what plasma actually is before getting into the propulsion side of it. Most people know 3 states of matter from school: solid, liquid, gas. Plasma is the 4th. When you heat a gas to an extreme enough temperature or expose it to a strong enough electromagnetic field, the electrons strip away from the atoms. What you're left with is an ionized gas, a cloud of charged particles that behaves unlike any conventional fluid. It conducts electricity, and critically, it responds to magnetic fields. You can push it, shape it, accelerate it, all without any physical contact. The propulsion concept built around this is called magnetohydrodynamic propulsion, or MHD. Instead of burning fuel to spin a turbine to push air, MHD uses powerful magnetic fields to directly accelerate ionized air. No moving parts, no combustion chamber, no exhaust plume in the conventional sense. The energy input is electromagnetic, and the thrust output comes from the controlled movement of charged particles. This isn't theoretical. The U.S. Navy funded MHD research through the 1960s and 1970s specifically for submarine propulsion. The appeal was obvious. A submarine with no propeller produces almost no acoustic signature, which is the underwater equivalent of no heat signature. The research produced working prototypes. The concept was proven in controlled testing. MHD drives for submarines were real enough that they showed up in Tom Clancy's fiction because defense insiders knew they existed. The technical problem with applying MHD to aircraft was always the power requirement. Ionizing air at the scale needed for flight speed propulsion demands enormous amounts of electricity, far more than any airborne generator could reasonably produce, at least with 1970s technology. So the research sat, partially classified, waiting on materials science and power generation to catch up. Here's what's worth sitting with. The Navy didn't abandon MHD because it didn't work. They shelved the large-scale development because the support technology wasn't ready. That's a completely different reason, and it matters, because the support technology has been advancing. High-temperature superconductors, compact electromagnetic systems, metamaterials that channel and concentrate energy with almost no loss. All of it has moved forward, mostly inside classified programs that don't publish results. The physics was never the obstacle. The question is whether the engineering has quietly caught up to it, somewhere the public isn't looking. The engineering question is one thing. The paper trail is another, and this is where it gets harder to dismiss. Boeing filed a patent in 2016 describing a system that generates a plasma field around an aircraft's hull using microwave emitters and lasers. The stated purpose: create a localized shockwave-absorbing layer that essentially wraps the aircraft in superheated ionized air, reducing drag so dramatically that conventional aerodynamic limits stop applying. Northrop Grumman has filed similar patents describing electromagnetic field generation for lift and propulsion in craft with no traditional control surfaces. These aren't fringe inventors or startup dreamers. These are the 2 largest defense contractors on the planet, and their patent attorneys don't file applications without engineers signing off on the underlying physics. A patent isn't proof that something has been built, but it is proof that serious money was spent developing the concept to the point of legal protection. Companies don't patent things they've abandoned. Now layer in the program history. DARPA's Falcon program, which ran publicly through the mid-2000s, was officially about hypersonic strike vehicles. The Black Swift demonstrator came out of that effort, a vehicle designed to reach Mach 6 using combined cycle propulsion. Black Swift was canceled in 2008, officially because of budget constraints. Defense analysts who track these things noted something unusual at the time. The cancellation came right as certain classified budget lines inside the Pentagon's black budget started growing. Not shrinking, growing. The Pentagon's classified budget, what insiders call the black budget, runs somewhere between $50 and $80 billion annually, depending on how you count supplemental appropriations. Some of that money goes to acknowledged programs in their classified development phases, but a portion funds what are formally called unacknowledged special access programs. Projects so sensitive that their existence isn't confirmed even in classified congressional briefings below a specific clearance threshold. Defense budget analysts, particularly at organizations like the Project on Government Oversight, have repeatedly flagged multi-billion-dollar line items with no corresponding public program description, no contractor named, and no stated mission objective. That pattern appeared before the F-117 went public. It appeared before the B-2. Both aircraft had been flying operationally for years before anyone outside the program knew they existed. The same pattern is visible now. Specific unattributed line items, consistent year-over-year funding growth, and procurement categories that don't map to any acknowledged aircraft program. Then there's the TR-3B question, and it's worth addressing directly rather than around the edges. Since the late 1980s, there have been persistent reports of large, triangular, near-silent aircraft operating over U.S. airspace and occasionally over Europe. The Air Force has never acknowledged the TR-3B exists. The sightings are real, documented by credible observers, including military personnel. And the described flight characteristics align almost precisely with what a plasma propulsion platform would produce. No engine noise because there's no turbine. Triangular geometry because a triangle maximizes the hull surface area available for plasma fuel generation. No visible exhaust because nothing is burning. That's not confirmation, but it's not coincidence either, and the distinction matters. When a reported flight behavior matches an engineering concept that major defense contractors are simultaneously patenting, and that same concept connects to classified funding anomalies with a documented history of preceding major aircraft reveals, you're not dealing with random noise. You're dealing with a pattern that demands a better explanation than the ones officially on offer. The evidence doesn't prove a plasma warplane exists. What it does is make the alternative, that all of this is unconnected, increasingly difficult to defend. The paper trail is abstract. The witness accounts are not. In November 2004, Navy pilots from the USS Nimitz carrier strike group encountered an object off the coast of San Diego that their radar had been tracking for 2 weeks. When Commander David Fravor reached the location visually, what he described wasn't a weather balloon or a misidentified aircraft. The object was roughly 40 feet long, had no wings, no tail, no visible propulsion system, and no exhaust of any kind. It accelerated from a hover to beyond visual range in under a second. Fravor, a 20-year combat veteran with thousands of flight hours, said it moved like nothing he'd ever seen or trained against. 5 years later, pilots from the USS Theodore Roosevelt documented similar encounters off the East Coast repeatedly over a period of months in 2014 and 2015. The objects showed up on multiple sensor systems simultaneously: radar, infrared, electro-optical. The infrared footage is what stands out. There's no heat plume. On a conventional aircraft, the exhaust trail lights up an infrared camera like a torch. These objects registered almost nothing. Whatever was moving them wasn't producing heat the way combustion does. Now run those descriptions against what MHD propulsion actually produces. No combustion means no heat plume, which is exactly what the infrared footage shows. Electromagnetic field manipulation means the craft doesn't need wings or control surfaces to generate lift or change direction, which matches the geometry witnesses described. Instantaneous acceleration without a visible thrust vector matches a propulsion system that acts on the surrounding air mass rather than pushing against it with exhaust. The mechanical fit isn't perfect. It never is with limited data, but the fit is far closer than any conventional explanation anyone has publicly offered. Here's where the materials science problem enters, because the engineering gap between MHD working in a lab and MHD powering a combat aircraft is enormous. Containing and directing the electromagnetic fields required at flight scale demands materials that can handle extreme energy densities without degrading. In public research, those materials don't exist yet. High-temperature superconductors currently require cooling systems that make them impractical for airborne use. Metamaterials that could channel and focus electromagnetic energy at the required intensity are still largely theoretical in open literature. DARPA's research portfolio tells a different story. The agency has been funding high-temperature superconductor development since the early 2000s, and its work on metamaterials goes back further. Crucially, neither program publishes detailed results. Progress milestones, material specifications, performance benchmarks, all of it disappears into classification. That's not unusual for DARPA, but it means the public baseline for what's achievable in these materials is probably years behind what actually exists in a classified lab somewhere. The facilities that could be manufacturing these materials are a short list. You need extraordinary clean room conditions, specialized electromagnetic fabrication equipment, and a security perimeter that keeps the work invisible. That combination exists at a handful of locations, all of them within reasonable range of known classified flight test corridors in Nevada and the Southwest. The witnesses saw something. The materials to build it are likely further along than anyone admits, and the geography fits. Start with the engineering constraints and work forward, because the physics of plasma propulsion doesn't leave much room for guesswork when it comes to what the aircraft has to look like. Air intakes are gone. A plasma propulsion system doesn't feed a turbine, so there's nothing to intake air for. The hull has to be smooth. Any protrusion disrupts the plasma field that's doing the work, so you lose the pylons, the fins, the external weapon stations, all of it. And the geometry has to maximize surface area for field generation, which pushes the design toward a blended wing or a triangle. Not because it looks dramatic, but because those shapes give you the most hull coverage for the electromagnetic emitters that are running the whole system. That description matches the RQ-180, the classified reconnaissance aircraft that Aviation Week reported on in 2013 based on contractor sources. Northrop Grumman built it, the Air Force operates it, and almost nothing about its propulsion has been publicly confirmed. Sightings over the Palmdale area and the Pacific Test Ranges describe a large, smooth flying wing platform with no visible exhaust and no acoustic signature consistent with a turbofan. That could be an extremely well-shielded conventional engine, or it could be something else entirely. The tactical picture that falls out of all this is worth spelling out plainly. An aircraft with no heat signature can't be tracked by infrared missiles, which is how most modern air-to-air engagements end. No radar cross-section means ground-based and airborne radar can't build a targeting solution. No aerodynamic surfaces means the traditional physics of pursuit, calculating where a maneuvering aircraft will be in 2 seconds, stops working because the aircraft isn't constrained by lift and drag in the way every engagement model assumes. You're not just building a faster or stealthier version of what exists. You're removing the assumptions that every opposing weapon system was designed around. The skeptic's case is legitimate and worth taking seriously. Power generation at the scale MHD requires is genuinely unsolved in the open literature. DARPA has killed programs before. Black Swift didn't fly. The A-160 Hummingbird went through years of development problems, and plenty of ambitious concepts have ended without producing an operational aircraft. Funding anomalies have explanations that don't involve exotic propulsion. Patents don't equal production. All of that is true. But DARPA's institutional model is specifically built around solving hard problems in classified conditions and handing off operational systems before the public knows the problem was even being worked. Stealth wasn't announced until it was flying combat missions. Precision-guided munitions were operational before anyone outside the program understood the guidance technology. Armed drones were conducting strikes before their existence was publicly acknowledged. The agency's track record isn't one of announcing capability while it's still theoretical. It's one of delivering capability and then eventually allowing the declassification. The honest position here isn't certainty either way. It's that the direction is confirmed by the patents, the funding is real by the budget documents, and the physics works by the underlying science. Whether a plasma propulsion combat aircraft is flying operational missions right now, or is 3 years from its first full-scale test, the gap between those two possibilities is smaller than the gap between where public research sits and where classified development almost certainly is. The distance between what gets officially acknowledged and what's physically possible has never been this wide, and DARPA operates exactly inside that distance. So the next time a Navy pilot files a report about something that accelerates without thrust and turns without surfaces, the explanation probably isn't coming from another solar system. It's coming from a program office in Arlington with a budget no one's allowed to read. Across decades, the cargo plane was the invisible workhorse of American military power. Then the Air Force did something that nobody in any rival capital had fully anticipated. It turned those cargo planes into bombers, transforming the most common aircraft in the American fleet into one of the most dangerous strike platforms in the world. How does a system that fits on a standard cargo pallet turn a transport aircraft into a weapon capable of firing 45 cruise missiles in a single pass? And why does China's military consider this capability one of the more credible threats the United States has developed in years? Join us as we break down how America transformed giant cargo planes into missile bombers that are ready for battle. On December 16, 2021, a cargo aircraft took off over the Gulf of Mexico on what looked, to anyone watching, like a routine training flight. There was no fanfare, no press release issued in advance, no public announcement of what was about to happen. The aircraft was an MC-130J Commando II, a special operations variant of the same Hercules transport that has been hauling cargo for the United States military since the Eisenhower administration. It carried a pallet. The pallet carried a production JASSMER cruise missile with a live warhead locked inside a deployment box that had been loaded through the rear ramp like any other piece of cargo before the aircraft taxied out and took off. At the designated point over the water, the ramp opened, the pallet rolled out, a parachute snapped open and stabilized the box as it descended. The missile was released from its cell, fell nose down, unfolded its wings, ignited its engine, pulled up out of its dive, and flew toward a vessel target on the Eglin Air Force Base overwater test range. It found the target, detonated, and the ship was destroyed with the cargo aircraft nowhere in sight. That test proved something that changed the strategic calculus for every Air Force planner in the world who was paying attention. A transport aircraft, an aircraft with no weapons pylons, no bomb bay, no radar signature that distinguishes it from the thousands of other cargo flights operating in any given theater on any given day, had just conducted a precision cruise missile strike. The system that made it possible is called Rapid Dragon, and the implications of what it demonstrated that day over the Gulf of Mexico are still reverberating through defense ministries from Beijing to Moscow. The United States Air Force fields the most capable bomber force on Earth. The B-52 Stratofortress, in service since the 1950s and still flying with upgraded systems, can carry up to 20 air-launched cruise missiles combined from its wing pylons and bomb bay. The B-1B Lancer carries 24. The B-21 Raider, the newest bomber in the American inventory, is still in its early operational phase. These are extraordinarily powerful and also extraordinarily scarce. The entire American bomber fleet numbers roughly 141 aircraft across all three types. In a sustained high-intensity conflict against a peer adversary, the kind that defense planners are currently required to plan against, that number becomes a hard ceiling on how many standoff strike missions the Air Force can execute simultaneously. At the same time, the Air Force operates a vastly larger fleet of cargo aircraft, more than 228 C-17 Globemaster IIIs, more than 300 C-130 variants in active, guard, and reserve service combined. These aircraft fly every day to every theater, carrying every kind of cargo the American military depends on. They are ubiquitous in a way that bombers are not. They operate from shorter and less developed runways, from forward operating locations that a B-52 cannot reach, from airfields that an adversary's targeting planners would never think to add to their priority strike lists because nobody has historically treated a cargo terminal as a threat. Rapid Dragon changes that calculus entirely. The system is, at its physical core, a palletized munitions deployment box, a modular container built to fit on the same standard airdrop pallet that American cargo aircraft have been using to deliver equipment and supplies for 80 years. The deployment box holds cruise missiles in individual launch cells, arranged in configurations of 4, 6, or 9 rounds per pallet, designated simply as 4-pack, 6-pack, and 9-pack modules. The entire system is self-contained. The cargo aircraft requires no modification whatsoever to carry it. A standard loadmaster rolls it aboard, secures it to the cargo floor, and the aircraft takes off looking exactly like it would on any other mission, because in every practical sense, it is. The operational sequence is straightforward in concept and remarkable in execution. At the designated release point, the rear cargo ramp opens and the pallet is pushed out into the air at altitude. A parachute deploys immediately, stabilizing the deployment box as it descends. Once stable under canopy, the missiles are released sequentially from their cells in quick succession. Each missile falls nose down, unfolds its wings, ignites its engine, pulls up out of its descent, and begins powered flight toward its target. The entire sequence from pallet release to missiles in powered flight takes seconds. By the time it completes, the cargo aircraft has already left the area, carrying no weapons, leaving no signature of anything other than a routine transport mission. The missiles being deployed are variants of Lockheed Martin's AGM-158 Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile family, the JASSM and its extended-range variant, the JASSMER. These are not improvised weapons adapted for an improvised system. They are the same precision cruise missiles carried by B-52 and B-1B bombers, the same missiles that the Air Force has spent decades integrating into its most capable strike aircraft. The JASSM-ER carries a 1,000-pound class penetrating warhead and is specifically designed for low observability. Its shaping and materials reduce its radar cross-section during flight, making it difficult for air defense systems to detect and engage on terminal approach. Its publicly stated range is at least 575 miles, and the JSS-XR variant entering production extends that reach to approximately 1,200 miles. A single target can be struck from distances that put the launch aircraft completely outside any realistic threat envelope. A single C-130 Hercules carrying 2 6-pack pallets can release 12 JASSM cruise missiles in one pass. A C-17 Globemaster III, with its substantially larger cargo bay, can carry 5 pallets for a total of 45 missiles, more than twice what a B-1B bomber carries, and more than 3 times what a B-52 can deliver in a single mission. The destructive potential loading into the back of what appears to be a standard transport flight is, by any measure, extraordinary. What Rapid Dragon does to an adversary's targeting problem is fundamental. A conventional bomber is a known quantity. It operates from a small number of known major air bases. Its presence in a theater signals offensive intent. Its departure from a base can be monitored by satellites and radar. An adversary planning a preemptive strike against American strike capacity knows exactly where to look. The Air Force has publicly described distributed operations from austere forward locations as a priority precisely because concentrating aircraft at a small number of known major bases presents an inviting target for adversary precision strike campaigns in the opening hours of a conflict. A B-52 requires a 10,000-foot concrete runway to operate. A C-130 operates from 3,000-foot stretches of less developed surface. The number of potential operating locations for a C-130 is not dozens. There are hundreds scattered across every theater in which the United States and its allies operate. When any one of those locations could theoretically serve as a Rapid Dragon launch point, when the same aircraft that delivered fuel and spare parts to a forward base yesterday could return tomorrow with pallets of cruise missiles aboard and fly a strike mission before returning to logistics duties, the adversary's targeting planners face a problem that has no clean solution. Cargo aircraft are everywhere. The signature of a transport mission is indistinguishable from the signature of a strike mission until the ramp opens at altitude and the pallet rolls out. A Chinese analyst writing in a People's Liberation Army journal described Rapid Dragon as giving American forces a method to launch strikes from just outside a defensive perimeter while operating with aircraft that would be hard to track and difficult to distinguish from routine airlift activity, crediting the system with genuine cost-effectiveness compared to building additional dedicated bombers, and assessing that it would meaningfully increase the agility and suddenness of American distributed strike operations. General Mike Minihan, then leading Air Mobility Command, described the system's potential in terms that went well beyond cruise missiles. Palletized effects, he said, could include decoys to confuse adversary radar systems, electronic jamming systems to suppress air defenses, sensors to extend battlefield awareness, and search and rescue packages, in addition to the kinetic strike capability that the cruise missile demonstrations had already proven. The deployment box is a modular container. What goes inside it is a function of what the mission requires. Efforts are already underway to integrate JDAMER, precision-guided bombs, the ADM-160 miniature air-launched decoy, the long-range anti-ship missile variant of the JASSM family, and other munitions into future versions of the system. The concept that began with cruise missiles is expanding toward a general-purpose effects delivery architecture that can be reconfigured for entirely different mission types, depending on what is loaded at the base before departure. The Air Force's fiscal year 2026 budget reflects the seriousness of the investment. The service intends to purchase 389 JASSMs in 2026 at a cost of approximately $1 billion, alongside 118 long-range anti-ship missiles for an additional $431 million. The Air Force has also identified the per-unit cost of the existing JASSM line as a constraint on the volume it can field, and is actively pursuing lower-cost cruise missile alternatives specifically designed for mass employment through Rapid Dragon. A high-value JASSMER is the right weapon for a heavily defended, high-priority target. For scenarios requiring volume, saturating an adversary's air defense radar network with simultaneous incoming contacts, or generating the kind of mass fires that overwhelm a defensive system's engagement capacity, a cheaper missile that can be purchased in the thousands rather than the hundreds changes the operational calculus substantially. The current American bomber fleet could more than triple in effective strike capacity if the full cargo fleet were available for Rapid Dragon employment. Over 200 C-17s capable of carrying 45 missiles each. At full theoretical employment, that represents a strike capacity measured in the thousands of cruise missiles per wave, a volume of simultaneous fires that no existing air defense network anywhere in the world is designed to absorb. The cargo plane has spent 80 years carrying the things armies need to fight. It is now, in a very direct and tested sense, one of the things armies fight with. And in the mathematics of distributed operations, mass fires, and contested airspace that defines modern large-scale conflict, that shift matters considerably more than the unremarkable appearance of the aircraft delivering it. For decades, Army aviation has been trapped by a brutal reality. A helicopter strong enough to carry troops into battle is too slow to survive getting there. The Pentagon needed the impossible: vertical takeoff, airplane speed, and the ability to strike before radar could react. Then Bell built it. A machine that lifts like a helicopter, transforms midair, and outruns every rotorcraft alive. How does it work? And why is the Army rushing it into service? Join us as we reveal America's impossible helicopter-plane hybrid, finally ready for war. The United States Army still fields the most powerful ground force on the planet, with more attack helicopters, more assault aircraft, and more air assault doctrine than any military in history. On paper, it sounds unstoppable. But modern warfare doesn't reward what looks unstoppable on paper. The uncomfortable truth is that the Black Hawk, the backbone of Army aviation since 1979, was designed for a different war. In a peer conflict over Taiwan, the distances involved are not measured in dozens of miles but in hundreds. A UH-60 Black Hawk carries its troops at 170 miles per hour with a combat radius of roughly 300 miles. In a Pacific theater where everything is far away, everything is contested, and everything is watched, that is simply not enough. And that gap is exactly where the problem begins. The Army began searching for a replacement in earnest under a program called the Future Long-Range Assault Aircraft, or FLRAA, with a single overriding requirement: deliver a brigade combat team 500 miles behind enemy lines in one period of darkness and leave them capable of sustained combat operations. That requirement quietly ruled out every conventional helicopter ever built. So Bell didn't try to improve the helicopter. They replaced the idea entirely. That is exactly the problem Bell helicopters set out to solve with the V-280 Valor, not with a new helicopter or a new airplane, but with something in between. A tiltrotor aircraft that takes off vertically like a helicopter, then rotates its massive rotors forward 90 degrees mid-flight, converting them into propellers and letting the wing carry the lift. This concept was first demonstrated by the Bell 15-3 in the 1950s. Then in the early 1980s, the more refined 15-15 proved it had real combat potential, pushing the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps to pool their requirements and produce the V-22 Osprey, the world's first production tiltrotor. But that breakthrough came at a cost. After 3 separate crash sequences that killed 30 Marines in the late 1990s and early 2000s, the program was grounded and triggered congressional investigations that nearly canceled it entirely. The Osprey survived. It achieved speeds above 315 miles per hour, ranges that made conventional helicopters look outdated, and eventually logged over 600,000 flight hours in real combat operations. Marines who flew it called it transformative. But transformation came with consequences. Its mechanical complexity, maintenance burden, and accident history cast a long shadow over every tiltrotor program that followed, and that is the shadow Bell had to escape. Everything changes with the V-280. Unlike the Osprey, where the entire engine nacelle rotates with the rotor, carrying the full complexity of a turboshaft power plant through a 90-degree arc under combat loads, the V-280 takes a different approach. Only the rotor shafts tilt. The engines stay fixed. The difference sounds small. It isn't, and the maintenance implications are enormous. Power is transmitted through a drive shaft running the length of a straight composite wing, and both rotors can be driven by a single engine if one fails, because the cross shaft connects them mechanically. The result is a dramatically simpler arrangement than the Osprey, one that pilots and maintainers from Black Hawk backgrounds can approach with familiar instincts rather than rebuilding everything from scratch. And then come the numbers. The performance figures the V-280 produced during its technology demonstrator phase were striking enough to define the aircraft itself. A cruising speed of 280 knots, 320 miles per hour, became its name. Its actual top speed reached 345 miles per hour. Its combat range extended to between 580 and 920 miles, depending on configuration, making it a different class of aircraft entirely. In December 2022, the Army awarded Bell the engineering and manufacturing development contract for FLRAA, worth approximately $1.3 billion, and in May 2025, the aircraft received its official military designation. It became the MV-75. M stands for multi-mission, V designates vertical takeoff and landing. The number 75 was not sequential. It was chosen deliberately to mark June 14, 1775, the date the Continental Congress formally established the Continental Army. The aircraft's wing is built from a single section of carbon fiber, reinforced polymer composite, eliminating dozens of fasteners and joints and cutting production costs by more than 30% compared to even a scaled-down Osprey wing. 2 wide side doors allow 14 soldiers to exit rapidly, with door gunners having clear fields of fire even in forward flight. Triple redundant fly-by-wire controls and retractable landing gear complete the picture. The dual cargo hooks can carry a 10,000-pound M777 artillery howitzer at 170 miles per hour. Moving a howitzer by conventional helicopter meant flying slowly and predictably, an easy target. At MV-75 speeds, it becomes something else entirely. The tactical concept built around the MV-75 is called Large-Scale Long-Range Air Assault, or L2A2, and its central requirement captures what the Army is actually trying to accomplish: undetected, long-distance insertions. Bell has already released over 3,000 engineering drawings covering more than 90% of the aircraft's design to a supply base of over 360 vendors. Over 5,000 purchase orders have been placed. Construction of a new 450,000 square foot production facility in Fort Worth, Texas, backed by a $632 million investment, is already underway. This is no longer a prototype. Consider what this means for the first operational unit to receive the MV-75, the 101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. This is the unit that wrote the doctrine for how helicopter-borne infantry operates at scale. It is now the unit that will rewrite it. With the MV-75, a task force can lift off from a base 500 miles away, cruise at an altitude where shoulder-fired missiles cannot reach, arrive over the objective before enemy reinforcements can reposition, and land troops who have not spent hours cramped in a slow helicopter, fighting for a landing zone that was already defended. At that speed, time itself becomes a weapon. The attack variant, the AV-280, developed jointly with Lockheed Martin, adds missiles, precision munitions, and small drone launch capability without interference from the rotors, even in forward cruise. A combined force of MV-75s and AV-280 attack variants can conduct the assault and its own escort simultaneously. The price sits between $50 and $70 million per aircraft. That is meaningfully more expensive than a Black Hawk. But the Army's total requirement of 334 aircraft by 2040 reflects something important. There is also the survivability argument that pure speed creates. An aircraft moving at 320 miles per hour spends less time inside any given threat envelope than one moving at 170. Ground-based air defense systems are optimized around the speed profiles of the platforms they were designed to kill. The MV-75 does not fit those profiles, and that makes it dangerous in ways speed alone cannot explain. None of this means the MV-75 is without risk. The tiltrotor design still carries mechanical complexity that conventional helicopters do not. The vortex ring state condition that contributed to Osprey crashes, in which an aircraft's own downwash disrupts its rotors during steep descents, has been addressed through training and procedural changes, but has not been fully engineered away. But unlike the past, this aircraft is designed to evolve. Unlike the Osprey, which required expensive hardware revisions whenever the threat environment changed, the MV-75 uses an open modular architecture inspired by programs like the F-35. Sensors, communication systems, electronic warfare suites, and software can all be updated without redesigning the platform itself. Where the V-22 matured painfully in hardware, the MV-75 will mature in code. The MV-75 does not operate alone. It is the centerpiece of a broader transformation in Army aviation that also includes next-generation attack helicopters, autonomous logistics drones, and long-range fire platforms. A future air assault force could see MV-75s carrying the assault element, AV-280 strike variants providing organic fires, and autonomous resupply aircraft extending the operation's endurance without requiring a single additional landing zone. All of this matters because adversaries have spent decades learning to read American military patterns. They know how long it takes to stage a conventional helicopter assault. They know the speed, the altitude bands, and the typical approach corridors. The MV-75 breaks every one of those patterns. The first deliveries are targeted for the end of 2026, with the 101st Airborne standing by to put them into operation. The critical design review is locked for the third quarter of this year, and Bell has already committed over 5,000 purchase orders to suppliers across the country. The impossible helicopter-plane hybrid is becoming the standard. The fundamental insight that an aircraft combining vertical lift with airplane speed creates tactical possibilities that neither capability alone can match will remain valid regardless of how the technology evolves. The MV-75 is the first full expression of that idea at operational scale, but it won't be the last because this isn't just a faster helicopter. It's the moment the helicopter stops being enough. The U.S. Air Force has tried to retire the Warthog for years, but it is still flying combat missions today. Built in the 1970s, the Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt II is still flying combat missions in one of the most dangerous regions in the world, tracking fast-moving threats in the Strait of Hormuz. So how does a 50-year-old warplane stay relevant in the age of stealth jets and hypersonic weapons? And what is it doing today that modern fighters still can't replicate? Join us as we reveal why the Warthog refuses to disappear and how Iran is currently paying the price for that. Let us start with the sound, one of the things the Warthog is famous for. When an A-10 fires its cannon, the noise it makes sounds like the sky is tearing open. A deep, violent, mechanical roar that lasts less than 2 seconds but feels like it goes on forever. Pilots who have heard it from the cockpit describe it as unlike anything else in aviation. Ground troops who have heard it from below describe something closer to relief, the particular kind of relief that comes from knowing that whatever was about to harm you is no longer a threat. That sound is the GAU-8 Avenger, a 30mm rotary cannon that is not just a weapon mounted on an aircraft. It is the reason the aircraft exists in the first place. The A-10's entire airframe was designed around the GAU-8. The aircraft was built to carry that gun into battle, and every other design decision, the engines, the wings, the cockpit, and the landing gear were made in service of that central function. The GAU-8 fires at a rate of 3,900 rounds per minute. Its average recoil force is 10,000 pounds, which is slightly more than the thrust output of each of the A-10's 2 engines. The rounds it fires are accurate enough to put 80% of shots within a 40-foot diameter circle from 4,000 feet while the aircraft is in flight. In a world that increasingly debates whether human pilots are even necessary, where the conversation is dominated by stealth, hypersonics, and artificial intelligence, the A-10 is the most stubbornly analog weapon in the American arsenal. It flies low and slow. It gets close to things and shoots them with a cannon until they stop being a threat. That is not a philosophy that fits neatly into a PowerPoint about 6th-generation air dominance. But it turns out that philosophy is devastatingly effective in the specific conditions where Iran decided to pick a fight. To understand why the Warthog is in the Middle East right now, let's go back to the beginning and understand what this aircraft was actually built to do. The A-10 was born from a very specific fear. In the 1960s and 70s, American military planners looked at the Soviet Union's massive tank force and asked a deeply uncomfortable question. If the Red Army rolls into Western Europe, what stops it? The answer they arrived at was an aircraft designed from scratch to destroy armored vehicles as quickly and as cheaply as possible, in the most dangerous conditions imaginable, and then come home. The result was an aircraft with a titanium-armored cockpit nicknamed the Bathtub, redundant flight systems designed so the aircraft could continue flying after taking significant damage, and an airframe robust enough to return to base with one engine destroyed, one tail damaged, or significant wing damage. The Warthog was built to survive being hit and keep fighting anyway. During Desert Storm alone, A-10s destroyed over 900 Iraqi tanks, around 2,000 military vehicles, and nearly 1,200 artillery systems. It even reportedly shot down 2 Iraqi helicopters, a rare feat for a ground attack aircraft that carries no radar and was never intended for air-to-air combat. After Desert Storm came Kosovo, then Afghanistan, then Iraq again, then Libya, then Syria. Every time the military establishment declared the Warthog obsolete, another conflict arose in which it proved to be exactly the right tool for exactly the right job. The Air Force, for its part, has been trying to retire the A-10 for years. The argument is straightforward and not without merit. The aircraft is slow and non-stealthy, built for low-altitude attacks that become genuinely dangerous against modern air defenses, equipped with man-portable missiles and radar-guided guns. Advanced air defense systems from Russia and China can engage it long before it reaches its target. The Air Force argues that modern multi-role fighters equipped with precision-guided munitions can perform close air support from safer altitudes, and that the money spent maintaining an aging fleet of specialized aircraft would be better directed toward next-generation capabilities. The Air Force's fiscal year 2026 budget included a request for $57 million to retire all 162 remaining A-10s, 2 years ahead of schedule. The plan was clear. The Warthog was done. However, the Congress disagreed again. The fiscal year 2026 National Defense Authorization Act prohibited the Air Force from reducing the A-10 inventory below 103 aircraft, and required at least 93 primary mission aircraft through September 30th, 2026. Any further reduction required a unit-by-unit waiver process, a 30-day notification period, and a multi-year transition plan covering 2027 through 2029, mandated by March 31st, 2026. Congress essentially looked at the Air Force's retirement plan and said no. Keep the Warthog flying. And then, less than 3 months later, Operation Epic Fury began, and the aircraft that was supposed to be in the process of being retired found itself in the opening wave of the largest American military campaign in the Middle East in over 2 decades. U.S. Central Command confirmed that 10 Thunderbolt II aircraft were employed during the first 48 hours of Operation Epic Fury against Iranian targets, integrated into the initial strike wave from the very beginning of the campaign, not called in as backup, not deployed as an afterthought, in the opening salvos. The first official images CENTCOM released of the A-10 in action during Epic Fury told a story about the variety of threats it was being sent to handle. The aircraft were carrying a mixed loadout: AGM-65 Maverick air-to-surface guided missiles, LAU-131 rocket pods loaded with laser-guided rockets, AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missiles for self-defense, a Lightning targeting pod for precision identification of targets, and a 600-gallon external fuel tank for extended loiter time. That loadout tells you something important about the threat environment in Epic Fury. The Maverick missiles are for armored targets and hardened positions. The laser-guided rockets are versatile precision weapons that can engage small, fast-moving threats at relatively low cost. The Sidewinders suggest the possibility of engaging Iranian drones in the air, which have become a significant threat across the region. And the 600-gallon fuel tank says that whoever loaded this aircraft expected it to stay airborne over the target area for a long time, ready to respond to whatever emerged. CENTCOM emphasized precisely this capability in the statement accompanying the A-10 imagery. The aircraft can remain on station for hours, standing ready to execute a mission whenever needed. That word, loiter, is the one that appears again and again in every discussion of why the A-10 remains relevant. Multi-role fighters can deliver more sophisticated weapons from greater distances, but they cannot circle over a target area for hours at a time, watching for threats to emerge, waiting for a boat to appear around a headland or a missile launch team to move positions. The A-10 can, and in the geography of the Strait of Hormuz, that capability proved decisive. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Dan Kane confirmed at a Pentagon press conference that the A-10 Warthog is now engaged across the southern flank of Operation Epic Fury, hunting and killing fast-attack watercraft in the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most strategically important bodies of water on Earth. Roughly 20% of the world's daily oil supply transits the strait. Iran has long maintained a strategy of threatening to close the strait to shipping in any serious conflict, using swarms of fast attack boats, mines, and coastal missiles to make passage too dangerous for commercial vessels. It is an asymmetric threat that does not require Iran to defeat the U.S. Navy in a conventional sense. It just needs to make insurance companies decide that sending tankers through the strait is too risky. The economic disruption that follows can be devastating for regional states, for global energy markets, and for any American effort to sustain regional alliances. Iran's fast attack boat strategy is built on numbers and speed. Small, fast vessels, difficult to track, appearing from coastal inlets and islands, capable of laying mines or firing missiles before air defense systems can respond effectively. Against an F-35 operating at altitude, these boats are genuinely hard to engage. They are fast, small, low on the water, and easy to lose against the radar clutter of a busy coastline. Against an A-10 flying low and slow at 300 knots with a targeting pod, a Maverick missile, and a pilot who has been training for exactly this scenario for years, they are not hard to find at all. The A-10 was specifically trained for the maritime role of hunting Iran's fast boat fleets long before Operation Epic Fury began. In early February 2026, A-10s were conducting close air support missions for the USS Santa Barbara in the Arabian Gulf as part of the force buildup ahead of the campaign, protecting mine-hunting operations in constrained waters near the strait from fast boat swarms and mining threats. In a March 16th video, CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper stated that U.S. forces had destroyed more than 100 Iranian naval vessels and vowed to continue rapidly depleting Iran's ability to threaten freedom of navigation in and around the Strait of Hormuz. 100 vessels. And the A-10 was actively contributing to that tally, not as a supplementary platform, but as one of the primary tools the U.S. military chose to clear the strait. A-10s were also spotted with Sidewinder missiles engaging Shahed-type Iranian drones during counter-unmanned aerial systems missions, an air-to-air role that nobody designed the Warthog for, but which pilots have adapted to over years of operational deployment in environments flooded with cheap Iranian drones. As the campaign expanded, flight tracking data revealed that the Air Force was preparing to send additional A-10s across the Atlantic toward the Middle East, with 12 aircraft arriving at RAF Lakenheath in late March 2026, suggesting a significant expansion of the Warthog's role in the campaign. The aircraft that the Air Force was actively trying to retire 6 months earlier was being reinforced mid-conflict. The debate about the A-10's future will continue after Epic Fury ends, but right now, somewhere over the Strait of Hormuz, an aircraft designed in the 70s to kill Soviet tanks is flying low over contested waters, scanning for Iranian fast boats, and making the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps pay for the mistake of thinking that cheap, swarming naval tactics could close the world's most important oil choke point without consequence. For years, the Pentagon kept trying to kill it. Too slow, they said. Too vulnerable. A relic of a Cold War that ended before most of its pilots were born. And then Iran happened. One A-10 down. Enemy forces closing in on the crash site. Rescue helicopters inbound with a 20-minute window to work with. The Warthog that showed up to hold that window open wasn't the aircraft anyone remembered from Desert Storm footage. It was something else entirely. How does a 50-year-old airframe become the most feared close air support platform over Iran in 2026? That's what we're going to answer. The Air Force wanted the A-10 gone for a long time. The argument wasn't complicated. The jet was designed in the late 1960s and early 1970s to stop Soviet tank columns pouring through the Fulda Gap in Germany. That threat disappeared in 1991. So why were they still flying a purpose-built tank killer decades later when the tanks were gone and the threat environment had completely changed? Budget pressure made the case louder. Through the 2010s and into the early 2020s, the Air Force repeatedly tried to retire the fleet and redirect that money toward a F-35 procurement. The logic was clean on paper. The F-35 is multi-role, survivable against modern air defenses, and stealthy in ways the A-10 never could be. Why keep a single mission, slow-moving jet when you could have one aircraft that does everything? Congress kept saying no, and so did the combat commanders who actually called in air support. The reason wasn't nostalgia, it was math. The A-10 could stay over a target area for hours in ways that fast movers simply couldn't sustain. When a ground unit needed a jet circling overhead for 90 minutes while a situation developed, the F-35 wasn't the answer. The A-10 was. And when it did take fire, it had a better chance of bringing its pilot home than almost anything else flying. The cockpit sits inside a titanium tub that absorbs hits that would destroy a conventional airframe. The hydraulic systems are fully redundant, meaning the aircraft can fly on mechanical backups if the primary lines get severed. There are confirmed cases of A-10s returning to base with one engine destroyed, a chunk of one wing missing, and the landing gear jammed and still landing safely. That survivability record kept the retirement conversations from ever fully closing. But there was a second argument quietly building in the background, one that didn't get much attention in the budget debates. While the Air Force and Congress fought over whether to retire the A-10, engineers were already rebuilding what it could actually do in a fight. The airframe everyone assumed was obsolete was being rewired, rearmed, and re-equipped for a threat environment its original designers never imagined. The upgrades that changed everything. Start with the gun because everyone does, and then forget about it for a minute. The GAU-8 Avenger cannon is still there. 30 millimeters, 3,900 rounds per minute, the whole legend. But the gun is the part of this aircraft that hasn't changed the fight. What changed the fight is everything wrapped around it. The first piece is the Sniper Advanced Targeting Pod. Before Sniper, the A-10's targeting was limited by what the pilot could see through a basic optical system and whatever a ground controller could talk them onto. Sniper changed the geometry of the whole engagement. It gives the aircraft a high-resolution infrared and electro-optical sensor that can identify a specific vehicle, read a license plate, or distinguish a weapons cache from a supply truck at ranges so far out that ground-based radar and manpads crews don't even know an aircraft is in the area. The A-10 used to have to get close to see the target. Now it finds the target first, from a distance that keeps it out of the threat envelope entirely. That shift matters more than almost anything else in this upgrade package, because the original knock on the A-10 in a modern threat environment was always the same. It's too slow to survive. Slow is still true, but slow only kills you if you're inside the range where the enemy can engage you. Sniper pushed that boundary out, and the standoff munitions package extended it further. The AGM-65 Maverick was already part of the A-10's loadout, but upgraded variants have increased effective range and added better seeker heads for engaging targets in lower visibility conditions. More importantly, the integration of the small diameter bomb gave the aircraft a glide weapon it can release from altitude, well outside most short-range SAM and manpads coverage, and let the bomb fly itself to the target. The A-10 doesn't have to commit to a low strafing run to kill a vehicle column. It can release from altitude, turn, and be repositioning before the weapons even arrive on target. What standoff actually means for a platform this slow is a complete reversal of the original risk calculation. The A-10 was designed to absorb hits because it had to get close. The upgraded A-10 is designed to never get close in the first place. The titanium tub and the redundant systems are still there as a last resort, but the goal now is to keep the aircraft in a position where none of that survivability hardware needs to be tested. Then there's the electronic warfare layer. The updated ALQ-131 jamming pod doesn't make the A-10 invisible to radar, and it's not trying to. What it does is degrade the quality of the radar picture the enemy is working with, introduce enough noise and uncertainty into a radar-guided system that a lock becomes unreliable, and spoof IR seekers long enough to break their acquisition window. The A-10 isn't stealthy, it's unpredictable, which in a close support environment where the engagement timeline is short, is sometimes more useful. Layer Link 16 integration on top of all of that, and the aircraft is now talking to everything else in the battle space in real time, receiving targeting data from other platforms, updating its own picture continuously, and passing information back to the rescue and strike packages operating alongside it. Taken one at a time, each of these upgrades sounds like an incremental improvement. Put them together and you get an aircraft with completely different threat calculus than the one the Pentagon kept trying to retire. The A-10 that came out the other side of these programs wasn't the same machine that was built to blunt Soviet armor. It was something the threat environment over Iran in 2026 hadn't fully accounted for yet. Iran 2026? The threat environment? Every analyst who looked at Iran's air defense network before the conflict started reached roughly the same conclusion. This was not a place you sent A-10s. The Iranians had spent years building a layered system specifically designed to deny low-altitude access. At the top end, they were operating S-300 derivatives supplied through Russian channels before the sanctions environment tightened, long-range radar-guided systems capable of engaging targets at high altitude and significant distance. Below that sat the domestically produced Bavar 373, Iran's answer to the Patriot system, which had been quietly upgraded through several iterations and covered the mid-altitude band that aircraft would try to use to avoid the lower-tier threats. And at the bottom of the stack, at the altitudes where a slow aircraft conducting close support actually operates, there was dense manpads coverage, shoulder-fired infrared seekers carried by infantry units, vehicle-mounted short-range systems, overlapping fields of fire across the forward areas. The kind of environment where a slow-moving jet at low altitude doesn't get a second chance. The air campaign opened the way these campaigns usually do. F-35s went into the high-threat corridors first, using their low observability and sensor integration to map the network and take down the nodes that made the layered system function. F-15EXS handled the strike packages against hardened targets that required heavier payloads. The A-10s operated in a different lane entirely, assigned to close support in areas where the air defense picture had already been degraded, working with ground forces in zones that were semi-permissive rather than fully contested. That division held through the early weeks. Then the front lines shifted. A pair of A-10s got tasked with a strike near a contested forward position, where the situation on the ground had moved faster than the air defense suppression work had. The area wasn't clean. It was semi-permissive at best, meaning some of the threats were degraded, some weren't, and the MANPADS coverage was still intact in pockets. The mission called for close support that faster aircraft couldn't provide with the loiter time the ground commander needed. And the upgraded A-10s were the answer the planners reached for. One of them took a hit on the ingress. A shoulder-fired missile, close range, caught the aircraft before the EW suite could fully break the seeker's acquisition. The pilot got out. The aircraft came down in a zone where enemy ground forces were near enough to reach the crash site before any rescue package could arrive. And with the threat environment still active, the helicopters couldn't go in without suppression. The second A-10 was still airborne, still armed, and now operating alone in an environment that had just proven it could kill aircraft like this one. 20 minutes. That's what the rescue package needed to assemble and get in. What happened in those 20 minutes is the reason the retirement debate looks different now than it did before the conflict started. The recovery mission, the second A-10 pilot didn't climb out of the threat zone. He turned back into it. The sniper pod went to work first. From a distance far enough out to stay below the MANPADS engagement envelope, the pilot started building a picture of what was happening on the ground. The downed pilot had survived the ejection and was moving, trying to put distance between himself and the wreckage. Enemy forces were on foot and in vehicles, converging from two directions, and they were moving faster than the rescue helicopters could. The A-10 pilot could see all of this. The ground forces closing in couldn't see him at all. That asymmetry is the whole point of the sensor upgrade. In the original threat calculus, the A-10 announces itself the moment it enters the engagement area, and the enemy has time to react. With Sniper running from standoff range, the pilot spent several minutes mapping exactly where every threat element was, what they were driving, which direction they were moving, and where the downed pilot sat relative to all of it before he ever committed to a weapons run. By the time he started engaging, he already knew the outcome of every shot he was going to take. The EW suite went active next. The ALQ-131 started working against the radar-guided systems in the immediate area, degrading the picture for any crew trying to track and engage the inbound aircraft. Enemy radio communications in the zone started breaking up. The suppression wasn't total, but it didn't need to be. It needed to be good enough to keep the rescue window open long enough for the HH-60Ws to get there. First weapons run targeted the closest enemy element on foot, the group with the best angle on the downed pilot's position. The pilot came in with APKWS laser-guided rockets, not the cannon. The APKWS rounds let him put precision fire on a tight target without the blast radius that would have threatened the pilot on the ground a few hundred meters away. The element stopped moving. Then the vehicles. A column of trucks was pushing up a road toward the crash site from the north, moving fast enough that they'd reach the area before the Jolly Greens arrived. The A-10 pilot pulled back to distance, stepped outside visual range of that column, and fired two AGM-65 Mavericks in sequence. The lead vehicles stopped. The column stopped with them. Nothing behind the first two trucks had anywhere to go, and nothing behind them tried. The HH-60W Jolly Green 2s came in under the suppression umbrella the A-10 had spent those 20 minutes building. The radar environment was degraded. The two ground threats that had the best shot at the crash site were neutralized. The downed pilot was recovered and on the helicopter before the enemy managed to reorganize a response. When the A-10 landed, the pilot had expended gun rounds, fired two Mavericks, and run the EW suite hard enough that it needed a maintenance check before the next mission. Every single thing that kept that rescue window open traced directly back to the upgrade package. The titanium tub and the redundant hydraulics didn't save anyone that day. The sniper pod, the Mavericks, and the jammer did. The airframe was just the platform carrying the tools that actually mattered. What this means for the A-10's future. The retirement debate didn't end after Iran, but the terms of it shifted in a way that's hard to walk back. What the conflict proved is that there's a specific operational gap the upgraded A-10 fills that nothing else in the inventory covers the same way. The F-35 can't hold a loiter pattern over a dynamic ground situation for the time the A-10 can. Attack helicopters have the loiter capability, but can't absorb the threat levels the upgraded A-10 now operates through. The combination of persistence, standoff precision, and survivability in semi-permissive environments is something the Air Force doesn't have a direct replacement for. The Air Force is now evaluating a further integration package, more sensor capability, expanded munitions compatibility, pulling more data from the Link 16 network. The Warthog isn't being positioned as a replacement for anything newer. It's being kept because it does a specific job at a cost and reliability level that a newer platform can't match, and Iran proved that job is still real. The A-10 was never supposed to make it to 2026, and honestly, the old one didn't. What's flying over Iran is the same airframe carrying a completely different set of answers to a completely different set of threats. In December 2025, 17 B-1B Lancer bombers thundered back to Ellsworth Air Force Base after a 10-month absence, transformed by war and technology. Veterans of Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and Venezuela, they returned carrying a chilling new role. The Air Force's $50 million external heavy stores pylon program has reimagined the aging Lancer into a hypersonic strike platform capable of unleashing dozens of long-range or hypersonic weapons in one mission. Why are military planners worldwide terrified of this development? How does carrying hypersonic missiles externally change the strategic balance? Join us as we explore how the B-1B Lancer's return with revolutionary new capabilities has changed modern air warfare. For years, the Air Force attempted to retire the entire Lancer fleet, arguing the aircraft were too expensive to maintain and redundant given the coming B-21 Raider stealth bomber. By 2023, only 45 B-1Bs remained operational from the original fleet of 100, built in the 1980s. The bombers had been working mercilessly during 2 decades of continuous combat operations in the Middle East and Afghanistan, accumulating flight hours at rates far exceeding original projections. Each flight hour required 48.4 hours of maintenance, making the Lancer one of the most maintenance-intensive aircraft in the inventory. Structural fatigue, parts obsolescence, and aging systems created constant readiness challenges that frustrated commanders and drained budgets. Congress, however, saw things differently from Air Force leadership. Lawmakers recognized that retiring the B-1B fleet before the B-21 achieved full operational capability would create a dangerous bomber gap precisely when tensions with China and Russia were escalating. The B-2 Spirit fleet numbers only 20 aircraft, far too few to cover all potential contingencies. The B-52 Stratofortress, while being modernized with new engines and radar, remains subsonic and vulnerable. Without the B-1B's unique combination of speed, payload capacity, and ability to operate in contested environments, American air power would lose critical capabilities. Congressional mandates, therefore, kept the Lancer flying, but simply maintaining the status quo wasn't enough. If these bombers were to remain relevant against adversaries deploying increasingly sophisticated air defenses, they needed revolutionary new capabilities. The solution emerged from an unexpected quarter: the Hypersonic Weapons Testing Program. The Air Force had been using B-52 bombers as test beds for hypersonic missile development. But the aging Stratofortresses were overwhelmed with modernization work, including new engines, advanced radar systems, upgraded communications gear, and countless other improvements scheduled over the next 7 years. Boeing, which acquired Rockwell's bomber division, proposed an alternative: modify B-1B Lancers to carry hypersonic weapons externally, offloading testing from the B-52, while simultaneously creating an operational capability that could rapidly enhance the bomber force. Between fiscal years 2022 and 2023, the Air Force invested $20 million developing an external carry-enabled testbed, successfully demonstrating that B-1Bs could execute captive carry of 5,000-pound class stores and release proven weapon shapes from load-adaptable modular pylons. This demonstration proved transformative because it validated a concept that would fundamentally change how B&B fights. The Lancer was originally designed in the 1970s and 80s to penetrate Soviet airspace at low altitude and high speed, either dropping nuclear weapons or firing nuclear-tipped cruise missiles. When the nuclear mission was eliminated in 1994 under the START Treaty, external hardpoints were sealed to comply with arms control verification requirements. The aircraft could only carry weapons internally, limiting it to 24 joint direct attack munitions or similar weapons in its 3 internal bomb bays. While substantial, this payload paled compared to what the bomber could theoretically carry if external stations were reopened. The LAM pylon testing proved external carriage was feasible without compromising aircraft safety or performance, opening the door to a capability transformation that would make the B-1B the most heavily armed conventional bomber ever fielded. The fiscal year 2026 budget request formalized this transformation, allocating $50.26 million to the External Heavy Stores Pylon program. This funding supports comprehensive development, including computational fluid dynamics modeling and wind tunnel testing of various external pylon and weapon configurations, hardware designed to modify aircraft line replaceable units and wiring, and software updates enabling the store's management system to recognize external pylon stations and weapons. The work is proceeding on an aggressive timeline because military planners recognize that China's military modernization and Russia's increasingly aggressive posture create urgency for enhanced capabilities. Initial installations will begin in fiscal year 2026, with testing and validation continuing through 2027 and beyond, ultimately equipping the entire operational B-1B fleet with external carriage capability. The weapons integration possibilities are staggering. With LAM pylons installed on external hardpoints, a single B-1B will be able to carry 36 AGM-158 joint air-to-surface standoff missiles, tripling its current capacity. The JSSM is a stealthy cruise missile with a range exceeding 570 miles when fired from altitude, capable of penetrating sophisticated air defenses and destroying high-value targets with a 1,000-pound warhead. Imagine a B-1B approaching defended airspace from standoff range, unleashing 36 JASSMs simultaneously at different targets across a wide area. Enemy air defense operators would face the nightmare scenario of tracking and engaging dozens of low-observable cruise missiles converging from multiple directions, each capable of destroying critical installations like command posts, radar sites, missile batteries, or communications facilities. The volume of fire would overwhelm defensive systems designed to engage a handful of threats, creating gaps that follow-on strikes could exploit. The AGM-158C long-range anti-ship missile integration transforms the B-1B into a naval strike platform unlike anything currently operational. LRASM was specifically designed to defeat advanced air defense systems on warships through a combination of stealth, sophisticated electronic warfare, and intelligent autonomous targeting. The missile can identify and prioritize targets independently, sharing information with other LRASMs in flight to coordinate attacks that maximize damage while minimizing exposure to defensive fire. A B-1B carrying 36 LRASMs represents a ship-killing capability that could devastate an entire enemy naval task force in a single strike. Chinese or Russian planners attempting to project naval power face the prospect of American bombers launching waves of these missiles from beyond the range of ship-based air defenses, systematically destroying high-value vessels like aircraft carriers, cruisers, and amphibious assault ships. The hypersonic weapons integration represents perhaps the most terrifying capability enhancement. The Air Force has requested funding in the 2026 budget to acquire AGM-183A air-launched rapid response weapon missiles, a hypersonic boost glide system that accelerates to over Mach 5 and maneuvers unpredictably during flight, making interception nearly impossible with current defensive technologies. When the External Heavy Stores Pylon program reaches full maturity, a single B-1B will theoretically be able to carry 31 hypersonic missiles, combining internal and external carriage. 31 weapons, each traveling faster than a mile per second, each capable of destroying hardened targets that conventional weapons cannot touch, each essentially invulnerable to existing air defense systems. This capability alone would fundamentally shift the balance of power in any potential conflict with China or Russia. Understanding why this terrifies adversary military planners, requires examining the strategic context. China has invested hundreds of billions of dollars in anti-access area denial capabilities, specifically designed to keep American forces, particularly aircraft carriers and bombers, away from areas China considers vital to its interests. The South China Sea, Taiwan Strait, and approaches to mainland China bristles with advanced air defense systems, including the HQ-9 long-range surface-to-air missile, sophisticated early warning radars, and hundreds of fighter aircraft. Chinese strategists assumed that even if American bombers penetrated these defenses, they could only carry limited weapons loads, allowing Chinese forces to absorb the strikes and continue operations. A B-1B carrying 36 standoff cruise missiles or 31 hypersonic weapons shatters this assumption completely. A handful of bombers could now deliver firepower equivalent to what previously required dozens of aircraft, saturating defenses and creating devastation that Chinese forces cannot sustain. Russia also faces similar concerns in European and Arctic theaters. Russian air defenses in Kaliningrad, Crimea, and along the country's western borders are designed to create defensive bubbles, protecting critical military installations and industrial centers. The S-400 and newer S-500 air defense systems can engage aircraft at ranges exceeding 200 miles and altitudes up to 100,000 feet, creating zones where conventional bombers face unacceptable risk. However, these systems have limited magazines. An S-400 battery can engage only a certain number of targets before requiring reloading, a process that takes time and exposes the system to follow-on strikes. If American B-1Bs can launch 36 cruise missiles or multiple hypersonic weapons from standoff ranges, they can overwhelm these defenses through sheer volume, exhausting interceptor magazines and creating gaps for additional strikes. The operational flexibility that external carriage provides deserves special emphasis. Traditional mission planning required careful calculation of weapons loads based on target sets, with aircraft configured for specific missions during ground operations. If the tactical situation changed during flight, bombers often couldn't adapt because they lacked the right weapons mix. External pylons changed this calculus fundamentally by allowing mission flexibility previously impossible. A B-1B could carry a mix of JDAM precision bombs internally for attacking fixed installations, while simultaneously carrying externally JASSMS for destroying air defenses or LRASMS for engaging naval targets. If intelligence identifies unexpected targets during the mission, the bomber has options to prosecute them without aborting or requiring additional sorties. The Pacific theater focus drives much of this development. Pentagon strategists have identified China as the pacing threat for military planning, and potential conflict scenarios in the Indo-Pacific present unique challenges that the upgraded B-1B is specifically designed to address. The vast distances across the Pacific Ocean strain logistics and aerial refueling capacity, limiting the number of aircraft that can effectively strike targets deep inside Chinese-controlled territory. The B-1B's combination of long-range, high speed, and massive payload means fewer bombers can deliver equivalent firepower compared to tactical fighters requiring multiple refuelings and carrying limited weapons loads. The bomber can cruise at over 600 miles per hour, covering distances that would take subsonic B-52s significantly longer, compressing enemy response timelines and complicating defensive planning. The recent return of B-1Bs to Ellsworth Air Force Base after 10 months at Grand Forks highlights the integration between legacy bombers and future capabilities. The aircraft had been temporarily relocated to allow massive infrastructure construction at Ellsworth, preparing for B-21 Raider arrival in the coming years. Over 20 major facilities were constructed or renovated, including specialized hangars, maintenance facilities, weapons loaders training buildings, and upgraded runways capable of handling both the aging Lancers and future Raiders. When the B-1Bs returned in December 2025, they landed on freshly completed runways that had been closed for 11 months, marking a symbolic transition where old and new capabilities will coexist for over a decade as the bomber force transforms. This coexistence is critical because the B-21 won't achieve full operational capability until the early 2030s, and current procurement plans call for only 100 aircraft. Many analysts argue that this number is insufficient for simultaneously deterring threats in Europe, the Middle East, and the Indo-Pacific, while maintaining strategic nuclear deterrence. Some experts have suggested the Air Force needs closer to 175 or even 225 B-21 Raiders to meet all requirements. Until that debate is resolved and additional aircraft are procured, the upgraded B-1B fleet must carry a substantial burden. The External Heavy Stores Pylon program ensures these aging bombers can compete in increasingly contested environments while the service transitions to next-generation platforms. The maintenance and readiness improvements accompanying the external carriage upgrades deserve attention because they address long-standing B-1B challenges. The integrated battle station modernization, completed fleet-wide, replaced analog cockpit systems with modern digital displays, improving navigation accuracy, situational awareness, and reducing pilot workload. The BEAST program at Dyess Air Force Base accelerated modernization timelines by years, incorporating Link 16 tactical data links enabling real-time information sharing with other aircraft and command centers, secure communications resistant to jamming and interception, advanced defensive avionics that can detect and counter threats more effectively, and increased data storage, allowing the bomber to gather and process more intelligence during missions. Radio cryptography modernization enables transition to next-generation mobile user objective system, satellite communications, providing secure, jam-resistant, beyond line-of-sight connectivity regardless of weather or tactical situation. These communication upgrades transform the B-1B from an isolated strike platform into a network node that can receive targeting data from satellites, drones, or other aircraft, immediately prosecute time-sensitive targets, and share battle damage assessment back to commanders. This networking capability multiplies effectiveness by allowing bombers to participate in dynamic targeting, where objectives change based on real-time battlefield developments rather than pre-planned strike packages that might hit obsolete aim points. The decision to regenerate retired B-1Bs from the boneyard at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base demonstrates commitment to maintaining fleet strength through the transition period. When a B-1B was severely damaged in a fire at Dyess Air Force Base in April 2022, causing nearly $15 million in damage, the Air Force faced a choice: invest in expensive repairs or replace the aircraft from storage. Officials chose to pull the retired bomber nicknamed Lancelot from the 309th Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Group, restore it to flyable condition, and return it to operational service. This regeneration process, while complex and time-consuming, proved more cost-effective than repairing fire damage and maintained the congressional mandate for a specific fleet size. The Air Force has indicated willingness to regenerate additional retired aircraft if operational requirements demand it, providing a reserve capacity that can be activated relatively quickly. The current operational fleet of approximately 45 B-1Bs, split between Ellsworth in South Dakota and Dyess in Texas, represents a carefully balanced force structure. Each bomb wing maintains roughly half the fleet, ensuring that even if one base is temporarily incapacitated by weather, maintenance, or other issues, the other can continue operations. This dispersal also complicates adversary targeting. Destroying American bomber capability requires successfully attacking multiple locations, rather than a single concentrated base. As additional bases, including Whiteman in Missouri, prepare to receive B-21 Raiders, the bomber force will become even more distributed, further enhancing survivability against preemptive strikes. Combat experience validates the B-1B's effectiveness and justifies continued investment. During Operation Absolute Resolve, the January 2026 mission that captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, B-1B Lancers played critical roles in suppressing air defenses and providing on-call strike capability for ground forces. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs Air Force General Dan Kane specifically mentioned B-1Bs among the 150 aircraft participating in the operation, noting their contribution to the overwhelming success that saw Maduro extracted without American casualties. Throughout 2025, Lancers deployed to the Middle East conducted successful counter-drone operations, destroying Iranian-supplied Shahed drones threatening American and allied forces, while also conducting precision strikes against Syrian military positions that threatened U.S.-backed fighters. The cost-effectiveness of the B-1B compared to alternatives makes continued operation economically rational despite high maintenance requirements. Flight hour costs run approximately $72,000 according to recent estimates, substantially less than the $135,000 for B-2 Spirit stealth bombers and competitive with the B-52's costs. When you consider that a single B-1B carrying 36 cruise missiles delivers firepower equivalent to 18 F-35 fighters each carrying 2 missiles, the economics become compelling. The fighter package would require multiple aerial refuelings, extensive mission planning, and coordinated timing, while a single bomber crew can execute the same strike with far less complexity. International observers are closely watching B-1B developments for insights into American capabilities and intentions. Allies operating under U.S. security guarantees, including Japan, South Korea, and NATO members in Europe, view bomber modernization as reassurance that America maintains credible conventional deterrence against aggression. The ability to rapidly deploy devastating firepower from standoff ranges without risking high-value assets like aircraft carriers provides options for responding to crises without automatic escalation to nuclear employment. Adversaries, conversely, must now plan their defenses around the assumption that American bombers can deliver overwhelming conventional firepower that could cripple military capabilities in the opening hours of conflict. Looking toward future capabilities, the B-1B continues evolving with potential integration of directed energy weapons, advanced electronic warfare systems, and even more sophisticated sensors. Research into laser defensive systems that could engage incoming missiles offers the possibility of active protection that would dramatically enhance survivability in contested airspace. Improved electronic warfare could degrade or destroy enemy air defense radars, creating corridors for penetration that currently don't exist. Advanced synthetic aperture radars could identify and track mobile targets like missile launchers or command vehicles, enabling dynamic retargeting that keeps pace with fluid battlefield conditions. The hypersonic testing mission places B-1Bs at the forefront of America's efforts to field operationally viable hypersonic weapons. While the initial air-launched Rapid Response Weapon program faced challenges and was reportedly canceled in 2023, the fiscal 2026 budget request for unspecified quantities of AGM-183A missiles suggests the program has been revived or reformulated. The United States has fallen behind China and Russia in fielding operational hypersonic systems, with both adversaries having tested and, in Russia's case, combat-employed such weapons. The urgency to close this gap drives investment in hypersonic development, and the B-1B serves as the primary testbed, ensuring these weapons can be rapidly fielded once testing validates performance. The Naval Strike Mission deserves particular emphasis, given the focus on potential conflict with China. The People's Liberation Army Navy has expanded dramatically over the past 2 decades, now fielding more warships than the United States and steadily improving quality. Chinese aircraft carriers, advanced destroyers equipped with sophisticated air defense systems, and amphibious assault ships capable of supporting invasion operations represent capabilities that didn't exist a generation ago. American planners must develop cost-effective methods to counter this naval expansion without bankrupting the defense budget through one-for-one matching. B-1Bs loaded with 36 LRASMs offer exactly this kind of asymmetric capability, where a relatively modest investment in bomber upgrades creates ship-killing potential that forces China to fundamentally reconsider naval employment. Militaries worldwide, particularly in China and Russia, are genuinely afraid of what these bombers can now accomplish. The comfortable assumptions that guided their defensive investments for decades have been shattered by American innovation, which has transformed an aging Cold War platform into a 21st century weapon system. As long as potential adversaries field targets that require destruction and maintain air defenses designed to counter traditional bomber capabilities, the B-1B Lancer will remain relevant and terrifying. The bone lives on, more dangerous than ever, carrying a message adversaries cannot ignore. American air power adapts, evolves, and will always find ways to accomplish the mission. While the A-10 Warthog has long been called unstoppable and irreplaceable, many believed its finest days were behind it. Yet the legendary jet has returned with upgrades that unlock a truly mind-blowing capability. From fresh technology to battlefield refinements, these changes are making the Warthog more remarkable than ever before. But as the military landscape begins to shift, one question remains. Will this upgraded beast continue to rule the skies? Or is its reign finally nearing the end? Join us as we explore the mind-blowing capabilities of the USA-10 Super Warthog. The A-10 Thunderbolt II, more famously known as the Warthog, is a living legend of modern combat aviation. Originally designed in the Cold War era to counter massive Soviet armored divisions in Europe, it has proven itself again and again as one of the most dependable and lethal close air support aircraft ever built. Its continued service in the skies for more than 4 decades is proof of its unmatched effectiveness, rugged design, and the emotional bond it has forged with the ground troops who rely on its protection. To understand the Warthog's uniqueness, it is necessary to examine its mission profile. Unlike high-speed air superiority fighters, the A-10 is not designed to win dogfights or operate invisibly with stealth technology, nor is it built to engage enemies from beyond visual range. Instead, its mission is raw and unforgiving, to fly low and slow above the battlefield, locate enemy targets with extreme precision, and destroy them, especially heavily armored vehicles. It is, quite literally, a flying tank killer. Its journey began in the 1960s, a time when Cold War tensions were high and military strategists recognized the serious threat posed by massive Soviet armored divisions. They needed a dedicated aircraft that could neutralize tanks and ground forces with precision, something more specialized than the fast-moving fighter jets of the era. The Vietnam War further highlighted the importance of reliable and sustained close air support. Ground forces often depended on air power to hold their positions or break enemy advances, and this reinforced the necessity of designing an aircraft focused entirely on ground attack missions. In 1972, the Fairchild Republic Company won the contract to produce this new platform, and by 1977, the A-10 officially entered service with the United States Air Force. Unlike traditional jets built primarily for dogfighting or long-range interception, the Warthog was conceived from the ground up as a flying weapon against armored vehicles in fortified positions. The most iconic element of the Warthog is undoubtedly the GAU-8 Avenger, a colossal 30mm rotary cannon capable of unleashing nearly 4,000 rounds every minute. This devastating weapon is so large and powerful that the entire airframe was designed around it. Its tungsten and depleted uranium shells can shred tanks, convoys, and entrenched defenses, making the aircraft a nightmare for enemy ground forces. The sound of the Avenger firing has become legendary, both feared by opponents and welcomed by Allied troops. Equally important is the aircraft's rugged construction. The A-10 is famous for its survivability in hostile environments. The cockpit is enclosed in a titanium bathtub that protects the pilot from shrapnel and small arms fire. Systems are built with redundancy, ensuring that even if hydraulics fail, the aircraft can still be controlled. The engines are mounted high above the fuselage and widely spaced apart, reducing vulnerability to heat-seeking missiles and making maintenance easier in rough field conditions. Astonishingly, the Warthog has demonstrated the ability to remain operational after losing an engine, sustaining severe damage, or even missing part of a wing. This resilience allows it to linger above combat zones longer than most aircraft, supporting ground forces when they need it most. The A-10 is also a powerhouse in terms of firepower. It can carry more than 16,000 pounds of ordnance, ranging from laser-guided bombs and AGM-65 Maverick missiles to Hydra-70 rockets and, more recently, precision weapons like the GBU-39 small-diameter bomb. This wide selection enables it to adapt to multiple mission sets, from busting tanks to striking insurgent hideouts. Equipped with advanced targeting pods such as the Sniper XR, the Warthog is fully capable of conducting nighttime operations and functioning effectively even in poor weather conditions. To fully grasp the A-10's legacy, it is worth considering its predecessor, the Douglas A-1 Sky Raider. This piston-powered single-seat attack aircraft made its mark during the Korean and Vietnam Wars by delivering heavy ordnance while absorbing punishment that would have downed other planes. The Warthog carries that same spirit forward, but adds modern armor, jet power, and devastating weaponry. The Douglas A-1 Sky Raider earned legendary status for its ability to carry massive bomb loads and remain over battlefields for extended periods, often longer than its jet-powered contemporaries. Ground troops admired it for its durability, accuracy, and sheer persistence in combat. This legacy of survivability, endurance, and firepower found new life in the A-10 Thunderbolt II. Unlike its piston-powered predecessor, the Warthog added titanium armor and turbofan engines, combining rugged design with modern technology to create the ultimate close-air support aircraft. One of the primary reasons the A-10 holds such a special place in military history is its close relationship with ground forces. During operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, where troops frequently fought insurgents in brutal firefights, the sight of the Warthog's distinctive silhouette overhead was an instant morale boost. Pilots often executed show-of-force passes at treetop level, scattering enemy fighters before even pulling the trigger. Soldiers vividly recall the deep reverberating roar of the GAU-8 Avenger cannon as it pounded enemy positions. Many have said that when they felt the ground shake from those thunderous bursts, they knew they were no longer alone. The Warthog had arrived to protect them. Beyond its survivability, the A-10 boasts remarkable operational flexibility. Unlike many advanced jets that require long and well-maintained runways, the Warthog can operate from short, improvised airstrips close to the front lines. This allows it to deliver close-air support where it is needed most, often in austere or remote environments. Combined with its long loiter time over battlefields, the aircraft provides ground troops with a dependable guardian overhead. From the moment it entered service, the Warthog has been tested repeatedly in real combat. During the Gulf War of 1991, it played a decisive role in Operation Desert Storm, destroying thousands of Iraqi tanks, artillery pieces, and supply convoys. Its ability to loiter over the battlefield and deliver precise, punishing fire was instrumental in the overwhelming success of coalition forces. In the years that followed, the aircraft continued to prove its worth. In both Afghanistan and Iraq, it became the go-to close-air support platform for American and Allied troops. The Warthog's ability to deliver accurate strikes in rugged terrain and urban environments made it indispensable. Troops on the ground frequently described it as a flying tank, a nickname earned through countless missions where the aircraft returned home riddled with bullet holes, yet still operational. Its record extends beyond large-scale wars. In more recent conflicts, such as operations against ISIS in Syria and Iraq, the A-10 once again demonstrated its versatility. From hunting armored targets to providing overwatch for special operations forces, the Warthog adapted seamlessly to changing mission requirements. Each deployment has reinforced its reputation as an irreplaceable asset, blending raw firepower, durability, and unmatched support for those fighting on the ground. Yet despite proving itself time and again on the battlefield, the Warthog's survival hasn't been guaranteed. The Air Force has tried several times to retire the A-10, but strong backing from Congress has kept it flying, with expectations that it will remain in service well into the 20s. To keep it formidable despite its age, the A-10 has undergone continuous modernization to remain combat effective. In the early 2000s, the Precision Engagement Modernization Program introduced new avionics, GPS-guided weapon capabilities, and improved cockpit displays. These upgrades led to the creation of the A-10 Charlie, which became the fleet's standard. This version featured hands-on throttle and stick controls, multi-function displays, data link capabilities, and compatibility with Joint Direct Attack munitions and other smart weapons. These changes effectively transformed the Warthog into a 21st century combat platform, one that could seamlessly integrate into modern joint operations while maintaining its unique ability to deliver precise and devastating close-air support. More recent modernization efforts have ensured that the A-10 remains viable well into the future. The Common Fleet Initiative replaced aging wings across a significant portion of the fleet, extending each aircraft's service life by at least 10,000 flight hours. Alongside these structural improvements, software upgrades, communications enhancements, and advanced sensor packages have enabled the Warthog to operate in digitally networked battlefields, coordinating more effectively with both air and ground forces. The A-10C Thunderbolt II variant is also one of the most unique and reliable aircraft in the world. Designed with the needs of soldiers on the ground in mind, it combines toughness, accuracy, and flexibility like no other plane. It was not built for speed or beauty, It was built to protect, and in that mission, it excels brilliantly. One of the A-10C's greatest strengths is its ability to maneuver at low speeds and low altitudes. While many modern jets rely on flying high and fast, the Warthog is at home close to the ground, where it can deliver accurate strikes exactly where they are needed. It can linger over a battlefield for long stretches of time, circling patiently until troops below call for support. This endurance makes it a constant guardian in the sky. The Warthog is also capable of operating under challenging conditions. It can land and take off from rough or austere runways, bringing its power close to the front lines where other jets might not dare to go. It can function under ceilings as low as 1,000 feet, with visibility as short as 1.5 miles. Whether the skies are clear, cloudy, or stormy, the A-10C can still carry out its missions. Its ability to employ both precision-guided and unguided weapons in nearly any weather condition gives it an edge over many other aircraft. At night, the A-10C does not lose its sharpness. Equipped with night vision goggles and advanced imaging systems, pilots can strike targets even in total darkness. The single-seat cockpit, placed forward of the wings, is designed for maximum visibility. Its large bubble canopy gives the pilot a clear, all-around view of the battlefield. Added to this is the helmet-mounted cueing system, which lets pilots point their weapons simply by looking at a target, an incredible advantage in fast-changing combat situations. But the most famous feature of the A-10C is its toughness. The aircraft is practically wrapped in armor. The pilot sits in a titanium bathtub, a shell that can withstand direct hits from armor-piercing and high-explosive rounds up to 23 millimeters. Even the flight control systems are partially shielded, ensuring that the plane can keep flying after taking damage that would down most other jets. The Warthog is built with survival in mind. Its fuel cells are self-sealing and protected by both internal and external foam, reducing the risk of fire or explosion. Its redundant hydraulic systems mean that if one fails, another can take over. And if all hydraulics are lost, manual backup systems allow the pilot to continue flying and even land safely. This makes the A-10C one of the most resilient combat aircraft ever created. Still, the aircraft has faced repeated attempts at retirement. Critics argue that the Warthog is too slow to survive in highly contested airspace, where advanced surface-to-air missiles and next-generation fighters dominate. Some within the Air Force contend that multi-role platforms like the F-35 Lightning II, with its stealth and precision strike capabilities, can absorb the A-10's mission while offering far greater flexibility. Yet, despite these arguments, the Warthog has consistently outlasted retirement efforts. This survival is due to a combination of undeniable battlefield performance, strong political support from Congress, and the unwavering loyalty of the ground troops it protects. Few other aircraft inspire the same trust and admiration from those who depend on close air support under fire. When viewed in comparison to modern international equivalents, the A-10's uniqueness becomes even clearer. While other nations field capable strike aircraft, few maintain a platform so singularly focused on close air support. Many jets can drop precision munitions, but few can absorb punishment, loiter for hours, and deliver devastating low-altitude firepower with the same reliability as the Warthog. It remains to this day one of the most iconic and effective instruments of battlefield support. The Warthog's journey from its Sky Raider-inspired origins to its present-day role as a modernized, digitally integrated attack aircraft underscores a fundamental truth. Technology evolves, but the need for reliable, precise, and survivable close-air support endures. For the soldiers on the ground, there is still no greater reassurance than the sound of the Avenger cannon and the unmistakable sight of the A-10 circling above. The Chinese Q-5 Fan-Tan, now long retired, was one of the few aircraft that shared the same design philosophy as the American A-10 Thunderbolt II. Built specifically for ground attack missions, the Q-5 offered some capability in the close support role, but lacked the survivability, armor, and sheer firepower of the Warthog. While it could carry bombs and rockets, it was never engineered to withstand the kind of punishment that an A-10 routinely absorbs in battle, nor did it feature a weapon comparable to the GAU-8 Avenger cannon. South Korea today operates the F-A-50, a lightweight combat jet derived from the T-50 trainer. The FA-50 is faster and more modern than the A-10, with advanced avionics and the ability to perform a variety of missions. Yet it falls short in the most critical areas of close air support. It lacks the loiter time that allows a warthog to remain over a battlefield for hours, patiently watching and waiting to strike. It also does not possess the titanium armor protection that shields A-10 pilots from heavy ground fire. European nations have employed aircraft such as the Tornado YDS or the Italian-built M346FA in light strike roles. These jets are competent in multi-role missions, capable of carrying precision-guided bombs and operating in different combat scenarios. However, like the FA-50, they are not purpose-built for close support. Their speed design and mission profiles simply do not allow them to replace the Warthog's unique ability to fly low and slow, visually identify targets, and deliver firepower with surgical precision. In short, no Western aircraft currently in service fully matches the A-10. It remains in a class entirely of its own. What is particularly noteworthy is the reliance of the U.S. Army and Marine Corps on the A-10, despite the fact that neither branch operates fixed-wing, close-air support aircraft of their own. In countless joint operations, soldiers and Marines have repeatedly emphasized their preference for the Warthog over faster jets like the F-16 or the F-35. For troops on the ground, what matters most is immediate, accurate firepower delivered exactly where and when it is needed. The A-10, with its ability to circle the battlefield, fly low enough to see the fight unfold, and place rounds with pinpoint accuracy, even in dense urban environments, has earned an unparalleled level of trust. Looking to the future, the Air Force has wrestled with the question of what could eventually replace the A-10. At one point, the OAX program examined the possibility of using a lightweight, inexpensive turboprop aircraft for low-intensity conflicts. These aircraft showed promise for counterinsurgency missions, but none could replicate the A-10's unique mix of firepower, armor, and endurance. The F-35, though vastly more advanced in stealth, sensors, and overall versatility, does not offer the ruggedness or battlefield persistence of the Warthog. For close support, loitering overhead for hours while shrugging off ground fire, the Lightning II simply cannot fill the same role. Some defense analysts have suggested that the only genuine replacement would need to be a clean sheet design, an entirely new aircraft engineered specifically for close air support in the same spirit as the A-10. Yet as of now, no such program is underway. In the meantime, the Air Force has continued to invest in upgrades for the A-10 fleet. The latest block of improvements, emerging in the middle of the 20s, has focused on enhancing target acquisition and weapon integration. Pilots now can employ newer smart weapons, such as the GBU-54 laser-guided JDAM, giving them greater flexibility and precision. The Warthog can also share targeting data with unmanned aerial vehicles, integrating seamlessly into modern network battlefields. Some experimental configurations have even explored equipping the A-10 with short-range air-to-air missiles like the AIM-9X, giving it a measure of self-defense capability against aerial threats. One remarkable feature that has been introduced over the years is the advanced helmet-mounted cueing system. With this technology, pilots can lock onto and track targets simply by moving their heads, allowing them to respond much faster in fast-changing situations. When this is paired with modern night vision capabilities and synthetic aperture radar, the aircraft's effectiveness on the battlefield is greatly extended, keeping it relevant in modern warfare. That lasting bond between the Warthog and those it protects isn't confined to combat zones. It also lives on in public displays that remind people why the jet is so revered. At the Wings Over Camarillo Air Show, aviation fans and history buffs were treated to a rare spectacle, the mighty A-10 Warthog in action. In 2024, spectators watched in awe as the aircraft thundered through the skies, showing off its battlefield dominance and raw power. The demonstrations included simulated close air support, where the Warthog highlighted its precision strikes and firepower. This airshow has long been celebrated for combining aviation history with advanced aerospace displays and heart-pounding aerial performances. The inclusion of the A-10 proved once again why it's regarded as a legend, a machine that continues to leave an unforgettable mark on modern warfare. For those who missed it in 2024, The Wings Over Camarillo Air Show will return in 2025 with another breathtaking lineup. Visitors can expect to see historic warbirds, cutting-edge technology, and jaw-dropping aerial displays. Alongside thrilling performances, guests will have the chance to meet aviation experts, explore exciting STEM exhibits, and get up close with legendary military aircraft. This fighter jet is the only U.S. Air Force aircraft built solely for close air support and is renowned for excelling at what it does. This aircraft can also perform a role known as Forward Air Controller Airborne, which is to guide other aircraft in attacking ground targets. And in this role, it is called the OA-10. Unlike other fighters, the Warthog was created to be tougher and even more powerful than the Douglas A-1 Skyraider. Its design includes a strong 30mm GAU-8 Avenger gun and 1,200 pounds of titanium armor that helps to protect the pilot and key parts, allowing it to withstand damage and keep flying. But that's not all. The A-10 can take off and land on short or rough runways, and just as you know, not just any fighter jet can perform this function without getting damaged. This feature makes the fighter useful in battle zones because it is rugged and designed for harsh conditions. Also, its simple design makes it easy to maintain with minimal facilities. It's no wonder the Warthog has seen action in many major conflicts like the Gulf War, the Balkans, Afghanistan, the Iraq War, and against ISIS in the Middle East. If this airfighter is as unique as it is without an upgrade, picture how formidable it is now with the recent upgrades. Simply incredible. Before we get into the recent upgrades on the Warthog, let's check out the main version and the designs. The A-10A is the main version, although one prototype with 2 seats was made to test night missions. In 2005, the remaining A-10As were upgraded to the A-10C version, which has modern avionics and can use precision weapons. Despite the uniqueness of the Warthog, the United States Air Force had planned to replace the A-10 with the F-35 Lightning II, but this decision is still seriously debated. However, they came to a conclusion and the Congress allowed the Air Force to start retiring a few A-10s in 2023, but any further retirements are on hold until the Air Force can prove that the F-35 can replace the O-10's close air support role. And well, they are still in the process of finding proofs. What led to the creation of the strong fighter jet, and why is the Congress reluctant to retire them? Here is why. After the Second World War, the development of attack aircraft in the U.S. slowed down, and efforts and resources were focused on the development of very fast fighters that are designed to carry nuclear weapons, like the McDonnell F-101 Voodoo and Republic F-105 Thunderchief. However, this decision had its repercussions because when the United States entered the Vietnam War, the main ground attack aircraft was the older Douglas A-1 Skyraider. While effective for its time, the A-1 was slow and vulnerable to ground fire, and this led to the loss of over 266 A-1s in Vietnam. But that wasn't the only downside. The A-1 also lacked sufficient firepower, making it even more vulnerable to attacks. Of course, the situation led to requests for a specialized attack aircraft that would be more effective against advanced threats and perform way better than the A-1. On June 7, 1961, Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara directed the USAF to develop 2 tactical aircraft, one for long-range strike and interdiction, and the other for fighter-bomber missions. The first was the Tactical Fighter Experimental, which became the General Dynamics F-111 Aardvark, while the second was filled by the Navy's McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II. Although the Phantom was a successful fighter bomber, it had a short loiter time and poor low-speed performance. It was also costly, with a flyaway price of $2 million in 1965 and operating costs of over $900 per hour. The USAF decided to adopt a low-cost aircraft to supplement the F-4 and F-111. Initially, they considered the Northrop F-5, which had air-to-air capabilities. However, a 1964 study shifted the focus to the cheaper A-7D variant of the LTV A-7 Corsair II, leading to a contract. But the cost of the A-7D doubled due to demands for a better engine and new avionics. During this time, the United States Army started using the Bell UH-1 Iroquois helicopter. Originally a transport aircraft, it was later modified to carry more machine guns. creating the helicopter gunship role. This was effective against lightly armed enemies, and new gun and rocket pods were added. The Bell AH-1 Cobra, an attack helicopter with long-range tow missiles capable of destroying tanks from a safe distance, was then introduced. The Cobra was so effective that the U.S. military changed its European defense strategy to use anti-tank helicopters instead of relying on tactical nuclear weapons. The Cobra was a quick adaptation of the UH-1, introduced in the mid-1960s as a temporary solution until the Army's Advanced Aerial Fire Support System was ready. The Army chose the Lockheed AH-56 Cheyenne, a faster attack aircraft, for initial production. The development of these anti-tank helicopters worried the USAF. A 1966 study showed gaps in their close air support capabilities, which the Cheyenne could fill. The study recommended developing a simple, inexpensive, dedicated COAS aircraft that was at least as capable as the A-1 Skyraider, along with new tactics and procedures for using it. On September 8, 1966, General John P. McConnell, the USAF Chief of Staff, ordered the design, development, and acquisition of a specialized CAS aircraft. On December 22, a directive was issued for the AX CAS aircraft, and the AX Program Office was established. On March 6, 1967, the USAF asked 21 defense contractors for information about the AX. Again, 3 years later, the United States Air Force issued a more detailed request for proposals, and this time with more desperation, because the threat from Soviet armored forces and the need for all-weather attack operations had grown uncontrollably. They also had new requirements for the aircraft, which includes a design for a 30mm rotary cannon, a maximum speed of 460 miles per hour, a takeoff distance of 4,000 feet, an external load of 16,000 pounds, a 285-mile mission radius, and a unit cost of $1.4 million. A separate request was also issued for the 30mm cannon, requiring a high rate of fire and muzzle velocity. As a response to USAF requests, 6 companies submitted their proposals. However, only Northrop and Fairchild Republic were chosen to build prototypes, the YA-9A and YA-10A. General Electric and Philco Ford were selected to build and test the GAU-8 cannon prototypes. 2 YA-10 prototypes were built and first flown on May 10, 1972. After trials and a fly-off against the YA-9, the YA-10 was selected for production on January 18, 1973. General Electric was chosen to build the GOU-8 cannon in June 1973. The YA-10 had another fly-off in 1974 against the LTV A-7D Corsair II to justify the need for a new attack aircraft. The first production A-10 flew in October 1975, with delivery starting in March 1976. An experimental 2-seat A-10 night adverse weather version was built, but it did not interest the USAF or export customers. The USAF ordered a 2-seat trainer version in 1981, but funding was canceled. The only 2-seat A-10 is now at the Edwards Air Force Base Flight Test Center Museum, and on February 10, 1976, full-rate production of the A-10 was authorized, and the first A-10 was accepted by the USAF Tactical Air Command on March 30, 1976. Production peaked at 13 aircraft per month, and by 1984, 715 planes had been delivered. The A-10's planned service life was 6,000 hours, but early fatigue testing led to reinforcements and an increased target of 8,000 hours. Issues with wing structure fatigue were addressed with several production changes, including thicker skins and cold working at critical points. The A-10 has a low-wing design with wide wings that give it excellent maneuverability at low speeds and altitudes. Its large wing area and ailerons allow for short takeoffs and landings from simple airfields near the front lines. The A-10 can fly slowly and stay in the air for long periods, making it effective for ground attacks as it can better target small, slow-moving objects than faster fighter bombers. The leading edge of the wing is built with lightweight, strong honeycomb panels, which also cover other parts like the flaps, elevators, rudders, and fins. These panels are tough and easy to replace even in the field. The ailerons located at the wingtips are large and split, acting as decelerons to enhance control at slow speeds. The A-10 is designed to be serviced and refueled with minimal equipment, even at basic forward bases. Its parts, such as engines and landing gear, are interchangeable between the left and right sides. The strong landing gear and low-pressure tires enable it to operate from rough, short strips, including damaged air bases or roads. The front landing gear is offset to the right to make room for the 30mm cannon, which is aligned with the aircraft's centerline. This offset causes the A-10 to turn more easily to the right on the ground. The main landing gear partially sticks out when retracted, making belly landings easier and less damaging. The landing gear retracts forward, and if hydraulic power is lost, it can still lower and lock in place using gravity and air resistance. The A-10 is built to withstand heavy battle damage, capable of surviving direct hits from armor-piercing and high-explosive rounds up to 23mm. It has double redundant hydraulic flight systems and a backup manual system in case the hydraulics fail. This backup system allows the pilot to control the plane and return to base, although the controls require more effort to operate. The A-10 can still fly with one engine, half a tail, one elevator, and part of a wing missing. It is equipped with flares and chaff to defend against missiles and enemy aircraft. The cockpit and flight control systems are protected by 1,200 pounds of titanium armor, known as the bathtub, which can withstand 23mm cannon fire and some hits from 57mm shells. The armor is made from titanium plates of varying thickness and includes a nylon spall shield to protect the pilot from fragments. The front windscreen and canopy are resistant to small arms fire. This durability was demonstrated when Captain Kim Campbell safely flew her heavily damaged A-10 back to base using manual controls during Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003. The A-10's engines are placed high on the aircraft to reduce the risk of damage from debris on rough airfields and allow for quick servicing and rearming. The engines produce a low infrared signature, making it harder for heat-seeking missiles to detect them. The fuel tanks are located near the center of the aircraft, protected by self-sealing mechanisms and polyurethane foam to minimize fuel loss and fire risk in case of damage. Even if the main tanks are compromised, the A-10 can still fly 230 miles using its self-sealing sump tanks. The main weapon of the A-10 is the powerful 30mm GAU-8A Avenger autocannon. This 7-barrel gun is made for destroying tanks and can fire up to 3,900 armor-piercing rounds per minute. It takes half a second to reach full speed, firing 50 rounds in the first second and 65 to 70 rounds per second afterward. It's very accurate, able to hit within a 40-foot circle from 4,000 feet away. The jet's body is built around this cannon. The gun is slightly to the left, but the firing barrel is aligned with the jet's center. The ammo drum can hold up to 1,350 rounds, but usually carries 1,174 rounds. The rounds are protected by armor plates that can explode incoming shells. It also uses the AGM-65 Maverick missile, which can hit targets from a longer distance than the cannon, reducing the risk from anti-aircraft defenses. Other weapons include cluster bombs and Hydra 70 rocket pods. The airfighter can carry GPS and laser-guided bombs, and usually has an electronic countermeasures pod and 2 Sidewinder missiles for self-defense. The A-10 is painted with different camouflage to make it harder to see when flying low. Various paint schemes have been tested, including a peanut scheme and winter colors. The most common was the European woodland camouflage with green and gray for forest environments. After the Gulf War, a gray compass ghost scheme was used to counter ground threats. Some A-10Ss have a false canopy painted underneath to confuse enemies, and many feature nose art like shark mouths or warthog heads. Since entering service, the A-10 has received many upgrades, and the most recent upgrades would be revealed later in the video. In 1978, it got the Pave Penny laser receiver pod for laser-guided munitions. In 1980, it received an inertial navigation system. In the early 1990s, it received the last TE upgrade for computerized weapon aiming, an autopilot, and a ground collision warning system. In 1999, it received GPS navigation systems and a multifunction display. Further upgrades included improved search and rescue systems, early warning, and anti-jam self-protection systems. The USAF also replaced the A-10S engines with more powerful ones. In 1987, Grumman Aerospace took over A-10 support, updating its maintenance plans. By the mid-1990s, issues with wing fatigue became prominent. Inspections found cracks, leading to the Hog Up program in 1999 to extend the aircraft's life. However, more serious issues were discovered, and a new plan to replace the wings was adopted in 2006, with Boeing contracted to build 242 new wings. The re-winging program improved mission readiness and reduced maintenance costs, allowing the A-10 to operate until at least 2035. In 2014, plans to retire the A-10 led to considerations of halting the wing replacement program. However, by 2015, the program was too advanced to cancel. Boeing stated in 2016 that the A-10 could operate until 2040 with the new wings. From 2005 to June 2011, the entire fleet of 356 A-10 and OA-10 aircraft was upgraded and redesignated as A-10C under the Precision Engagement Program. These massive upgrades included all-weather combat capability, an improved fire control system, electronic countermeasures, smart bomb targeting, and a modern communications suite with Link 16 radio and satellite communications. The cockpits were also upgraded with 2 multifunction displays and a HOTAS configuration, combining elements from the F-16 and F-15 controls. The Government Accountability Office estimated the cost of these upgrades and service life extensions to be $2.25 billion through 2013. In July 2010, Raytheon was contracted to integrate a helmet-mounted integrated targeting system into the A-10C. The last TE system was replaced with the integrated flight and fire control computer as part of the Precision Engagement upgrade. Throughout its life, the A-10 has received multiple software upgrades. Although plans to retire the A-10 in February 2014 initially halted some of these upgrades, the Secretary of the Air Force, Deborah Lee James, ordered that the latest upgrade, Suite 8, continue due to congressional pressure. The Suite 8 includes IFF Mode 5, which enhances the A-10's ability to identify itself to friendly units. Additionally, the paved penny pods and pylons were removed and replaced by AN/AAQ-284. Lightning at or Sniper XR targeting pods, which have laser designators and laser rangefinders. In 2012, Air Combat Command requested testing of a 600-gallon external fuel tank to extend the A-10's loitering time by 45 to 60 minutes. Over 30 flight tests were conducted to gather data on the aircraft's handling and performance with different load configurations. It was found that the tank slightly reduced stability in the yaw axis, but did not decrease the aircraft's tracking performance. Now to the most recent development, it's interesting to note that the upgrades didn't end with the Suite C, because just this year, the Warthog has received several upgrades to remain effective in future wars and against advanced threats. The recent upgrades for the A-10C include better avionics, improved weapon systems, and enhanced survivability. These changes aim to keep the A-10C capable in the face of advanced electronic and cyber warfare threats expected in future conflicts. A significant part of the upgrade is the addition of new weapon systems, including advanced precision-guided bombs and updated targeting pods, which will improve the A-10C's accuracy in hitting moving targets. These enhancements will help the A-10C support ground forces more effectively in challenging and contested environments. But that's not all. The avionics and communication systems are being overhauled to improve interoperability with other U.S. and allied forces. This includes the implementation of modern data links and communication networks, enabling the Warthog to share real-time battlefield information with ground troops and other assets in the theater of operations. Given the A-10C's job of providing close air support, improving its ability to survive in battle is very important. The aircraft is getting better armor and defensive systems to protect against enemy anti-aircraft weapons. These upgrades will help the A-10C stay effective in dangerous environments, continuing to support ground troops. These upgrades have been interpreted as part of a bigger plan to keep the A-10C fleet in service for many more years, despite the initial plan to retire it. Aside the physical improvements to the aircraft, the A-10C program is also focusing on advanced training and simulation for pilots. These systems are designed to prepare pilots for the challenges of modern warfare, including operating in contested airspaces and coordinating with other air and ground units. The goal is to keep A-10C crews highly ready and effective. This means that the upgraded A-10C Thunderbolt II will continue being operational and would be deployed around the world, supporting U.S. and allied operations wherever needed. Its ability to adapt to future battles ensures it will remain a crucial tool for close air support and ground attack missions, providing critical firepower to support ground forces in combat. Thanks for watching. While you are still here, click on the link on your screen to check out another of our videos. See you there!